Our guest tonight is Absinthe, the green fairy. And they called it the green fairy because it's green. And it's green because of the herbs they use in it. Absinthe has so much fabulous history to it. And the history's funny when you actually hear about it. When I tell you, it's interesting, and it's all a forest, right? So let's just start. So absinthe is made. Its main ingredient is wormwood, and it's grand wormwood, and it's Artemisia absinthium. And the wormwood that we sell here is the same herb. It was an herbal elixir when it was first made. And it had anise, fennel, wormwood, mugwort, some peppermint, lemon balm, lots of other herbs in it. And it's been used since the beginning of time, really. In the 2nd century, it was documented. Who did it in the 2nd century? The herbalist Galen, if any of you have heard of Galen before, he wrote down, he kept a record that wormwood was good for stomach ailments. And that's what it's always, all through history, that's what it has been used for, as a medicinal for stomach aches, for gut aches. It also is really good for fumigating, like pesticide, I don't mean it's a pesticide, parasites. It's good to clean out the system. So we've got, we have the 2nd century, someone's talking about it. 1597, there's another record of it being used herbally. During the bubonic plague, they burned wormwood in the homes where humans had died, so they fumigated it by burning the wormwood. So they've used it for lots and lots of things. In the late 1700s, a doctor, Dr. Pierre Ordinaire, he created the medicinal elixir that is the original recipe for absinthe. So he creates this in Switzerland, late 1700s. People start to love it. It's distilled like any other spirit. So it's not a liqueur. It is actually a spirit. It's made just like gin is, where it's distilled in a copper distillery, but they run it through twice. So the second time they run it through, it increases the alcohol content and it creates its green color. Today, lots of times they add the green color. They don't do the second run. And I'm going to talk about the today absinthe, but let's talk about the beginning absinthe first. So I'm just going to fix this. Okay. Technical difficulties with the cameras. So gin, distilling it. Okay, so they're making it, they're distilling it, they have this medicinal elixir. By 1805, Henry Pernod. Now, when you look up P-E-R-N-O-D, that's the original absinthe distillery. And it was the very first commercial distillery for absinthe in 1805, and it's still running today. You can still buy Pernod, excuse me, I said the D, Pernod. And it's very expensive, but it is still made by an original recipe. By 1849, there are 26 French distilleries. They are producing 10 million liters of absinthe a year, and it's only a fraction of what France is consuming. So what starts to happen is it becomes a highly sought after cocktail, and its base is almost twice the alcohol of a normal spirit. So the Grand Absinthe, this is 138 proof, which makes that half of that is 65, 66% alcohol, right? So it's very, very high alcohol content, hence the problem. So what would happen is, and it's very, very bitter. The herbs are bitter, bitter, bitter. So you're off. So how they drink it is, well, I'm not going to get to that yet either. Wait. Let me tell you the history first, and then I'll get to let's drinking it. So people were drinking it, and I was talking to Shay today. You know how when you drink tequila, you have a different high than when you drink wine. When you drink sake, you have a different high. It's because it's made with different ingredients, so it affects your brain in a different way. Well, absinthe was affecting people in a different way. It became the favorite of creatives, of writers, of artists, of playwrights. Some of the names, it's really fun, who really loved absinthe, and it was because it allowed them to think in expansive ways. It just opened up their mind. Now let's think about it. It's got mugwort in it. It's got herbs that will do that to you. And herbs 200 years ago, in the 1800s, right? Early 1800s, 1850s, they're different than the herbs we freaking have now. The soil was different. Air was different. The water was different. Everything was different. So there was a much purer essence. So, and plus a much higher alcohol content. So yes, people's minds were expanding and they were being creative. So it was the creative libertines, with those without morals, who were totally, the bohemians, who were really loving it. We've got Charles Baudelaire, who was a French poet, and he wrote, "One must be drunk always with wine, poetry, or virtue. The choice is yours, but always be intoxicated." Right? That's a nice sentence, right? Oscar Wilde loved this stuff. He was an Irish poet and playwright, and he wrote, "A glass of absinthe is as poetic as anything in the world. What difference is there between a glass of absinthe and a sunset?" Ernest Hemingway, he was an American novelist. He called it idea-changing liquid alchemy. He actually, Ernest Hemingway, created the cocktail that I'm going to be sharing with you. It was his favorite. It's I used Prosecco in ours, but he claimed it was champagne with the absinthe. So Edgar Allan Poe, Vincent van Gogh, Lewis Carroll, Aleister Crowley, Lord Byron. Picasso dipped in, but he wasn't an absinthe drinker. But he tried it, but it wasn't his thing. So absinthe drinkers idolized intoxication in all ways, and polite society did not. And so what was happening is that the elites, those who were proper, those who were not bohemian, started to dislike what was happening. It's kind of like, and I equate it to what happened with marijuana in this country also, where a group, someone says, that's not okay. And one person in this country decided that marijuana was a problem and caused the whole madness that happened through, he was in politics, he had influence, and that's how it got to become illegal. The same thing happens in France. It all starts in France. And it actually was very political. It had nothing to do with absinthe. The French society was slowly degrading. They didn't have a French race anymore, and so that is how it began. How were they going to correct that? Because now their asylums were getting full because so many people were drinking so much of this that they were going insane. What was happening is they were just, this high alcohol content, they were just severe alcoholics, is what it was. A snicker from the background. Yeah, they had just, that's what they have determined now. When today in modern day, they've done lots of testings. And the chemical that they claimed was the problem was thujin. But when they test the thujins, it's wormwood has, their chemical is thujin. They claimed they made all these crazy accusations that Thujan caused insanity and convulsions and seizures and things like that. It actually, it doesn't. So the other things that could have been causing people to go insane, besides the ethanol, which was the alcohol, there were things in the copper distilling that could have caused it. The chloride could have caused it. There was,
lead at that time.
right? There was a couple other things that I don't know, chloride, but there were other chemicals in the process. Nothing was being regulated, so who knows, right? So the big thing that happens, 1867, Valentin Magadan, whatever his name was, he's a psychiatrist in France and becomes the national authority on mental illness. And he has it out for absinthe. And he starts saying that absinthe is actually different than alcoholism. And he calls it absinthism. And decided that all the social problems were because of absinthe. And then, so he starts, this is how it began. He begins this craziness, but then, what is the year? 1905 comes along, and land-free murders happen. A guy gets up, crack of dawn, has a glass of absinthe, proceeds to drink all day long, comes home, has another glass of absinthe, so one in the beginning, one at the end, but he's already been drinking all day long, shoots his wife, his 2 children, murders them, and she ends up being pregnant, so he's tried for the murder of 4 people, and that's the end. They become the absinthe murders, because now it's violent. Up until this point, you're just crazy, and you're in an asylum, but you're not hurting anyone. They attribute these murders to absinthe, and by 1915, absinthe is banned in America and in most of Europe, without really any proof or any research done that was valid. So they called it the Green Fairy because of its fabulous color and how crazy you would get, how expansive and magical it was. This is an absinthe spoon, all right? So it's a slotted spoon.
Wow. So
there was all kinds of gorgeous paraphernalia for absinthe drinking. I mean, it was really something else. They had decanters that would drip water. And so what happens is, because it's such a high alcohol content, you never want to drink it straight. Like you said, you did a shot, and I wanted to be like, ew. You never want to just drink absinthe straight. First of all, it's 55 to 65% alcohol, and it's very, very bitter. So you would take your slotted spoon and a sugar cube, and then you would slowly drip water over. Now, what's going to happen, let me do it this way so you can see what happens to the absinthe. Something magical happens to the absinthe. I'm going to try to go slow. And so you let the water absorb into the sugar cube slowly. And that's what these little fountains did. The fountains let it drip. And they had, like, you could do 4 at a time. So before the pandemic, Joe Netherwood, rest in peace, or not, I'm sure he wouldn't want to be in peace. He and I were to do an absinthe night at my house back then, and he passed away just before the pandemic. And he and I had chatted about absinthe and talked about how it was about how government, how government and people in charge, it was all about control, and how all, when it comes to people who are creative and free thinking, so that's really what it was about. It was about free thinking, and people were doing too much of that, and so they ban it. They make it evil. So can you see that it's changing color? It becomes cloudy, so I'm going to add a little bit more water. and it'll get cloudy. Here it goes.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Then you know that you've added enough water. And so what's happening is that the water is releasing the botanicals from the herbs. And when the essential oils mix with the water, it turns the water cloudy. So this is how you know you have real absinthe, is it's going to get cloudy when the water goes in it. So this is, what's in this glass is expensive absinthe. It's Grande Absinthe. I only have a little bottle because this is one of the more expensive ones. And if you research absinthe, you'll see there's so many. So it became illegal in 1915, but people still made it. So, England never banned it because it never caught on in England. Let's think about it. They're too proper. They're not bohemian enough, and so it didn't resonate with the English folk. But who else didn't? Switzerland kept making it. Sweden didn't ban it. So they kept making it. So you could still get it. And people were still making it in their little backyard stills anyway, just like in moonshine, right? 2007 is when it becomes legal again in the United States. Almost 100 years, right? It was copper sulfates was the other thing that was that could have been causing the craziness. This process of adding water and sugar is called louching. In case you want to know, louching. And this is an absinthe drip. The sugar is important, again, because it's gross. It's very, very bitter. So you need the sugar to curb that. But it's so good. You're going to get, first of all, what I want to do is you guys can each have, this is a sniff of it pure. You could sip it if you want. Put your little finger in it.
Licorice.
Yes, well, that's the anise, right?
I love anise.
Yep. Yeah. So that's it in its pure form.
Oh.
Now, because it's so strong, very often, how you find it, and it's made its way back into like popularity in lots of cocktails. But they use it as just a rinse, like just coating the glass with it, dumping it out right back into the bottle, of course, but just as a rinse, just to have that additional flavor to it, because it is so strong. The taste is so strong. But this is fuzzy yumminess.
Yeah, you always have to have water in it?
Well, no.
Oh.
But then it's gross.
But I see like here you put champagne or Prosecco. Do you put the water then the champagne?
No.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to ask.
So if this is this is the absinthe drip.
Oh, absinthe drip, okay.
Oh yeah, that is so good. So good. As long as it's been diluted. Mm-hmm. All right, now, this is absinthe and champagne. Here you go, Lynn. It's not actually champagne. I used Prosecco. I lied.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead. Would you pass it for me?
Yeah. Oh.
So remember, even this little teeny shot, the alcohol content is so high. It's so high. That's why I'm only giving little teeny glasses. What I found, so Jim and I were drinking them last night because I was taste testing. Like, what?
Yeah, you can't give it out.
No, and I wanted to make sure that I had the right proportions, right? Because one of the other cocktails that it's really good with is just orange juice.
Yep.
It's so good with just orange juice. So the Grande is made with an original recipe. It's a very old company also. It's less expensive than, can you see the bottle? The bottle, okay. It's less expensive than the Pernod, and very, very good. What I made your cocktail with is a different brand. It's called Absinthe. This is beginner's absinthe. Two things. They add the green dye. It's not double distilled. And they actually don't use Artemisia absinthium. They use a different wormwood. They use a southern wormwood, and it does not cloud the glass. When you add the water to it and sugar, it doesn't have the same process. They've added sugar to it already. I love this for making cocktails. This is the cocktail version, because I'm not going to spend $80 on a bottle when I'm just going to be drinking it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The $80 a bottle absinthe is for making drip. It's for making, you're going to drink it on its own. Like a good tequila, a good sipping tequila. It's a good sipping absinthe once you've added the sugar and the water. And the adding of the water and the sugar cube is kind of like a little ritual, like rolling your joint. You know, like you're taking a moment to connect with, oh, this is what I'm doing, right? But this is the best one to make cocktails with because it's super easy, right? It's really good. There's no additional sugar in those little cocktails. It's just this brand with Prosecco. If you're going to use a higher brand that does not already add the sugar in, you'll see you'll want simple syrup in this.
Katrina's asking if do you get it at liquor stores or online?
Oh, you can get them both places. You know, I don't know where you can, I don't know how to order alcohol online. I love my liquor store, so I love going to a liquor store. Like, I love buying rocks the same way I love buying alcohol. Like, I can go to the liquor store and walk around for fucking hours, right? I mean, I love the liquor store. And especially now when they start getting their packages in of different things, that's how I got my spoon. Is they had a box. They had the gift boxes. Yeah. And they had a gift box, and it had a glass, and it had the spoon and a little bottle of absinthe. Wow. They don't do the boxes anymore now since the pandemic, because now everybody's, they used to the gift boxes. But yeah, I love alcohol. That's a funny thing to say. I love the liquor stores. That too. So yeah, go to a liquor store, and then you can talk to your human there. And bottle reading is difficult. You want to do some research for the different companies before you go. Because even after you've done your research, you go and then they have all kinds of different brands, and you're like, oh, the hell's in this one? But if you have your cell phone, you can quickly look up, and they'll tell you right there, this has got sugar added, this has got the dye added, or this is an original recipe. You can also tell by the price. Like, this is like $40 or $50. Not even. Maybe it was $40. $39.99. And this little bottle was $20. Right? So this bottle is $75. And the Pinot is very expensive also. Like $80 a bottle. But there's so many out there. It's so commercialized, so you just have to be careful. You just have to read about each one. But this is a good one for beginners for making just good cocktails. And then if you want to be sipping, I would say the Pernod. That's the best. Well, here. Who wants more?
Oh, sure. What's the plant for? Is it just for decoration?
It is just for decoration.
Okay.
It's mint, and I thought that I would put a mint sprig in here, and it would look pretty.
I think it's something to do with the drink.
No, but they put some mint in it, and I thought,
just a little bit.
It's like eating licorice, the jelly
it's
beans.
Yummy. It's very yummy, right?
It is. I can see why.
I can see why you talked about it so much all the time.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just creating the right cocktail to take away the bitterness. And the truth is, it's like any other alcohol. You have to know what you're doing, right? If you know that it's got 55% or 75% alcohol in it, you're going to water it down. And if you're having a party, you're going to give guests less, right? I mean, you have to drink responsibly. And when you think about what these people were doing 100 years ago, right? They were just like, I love to smoke a little bit and then do my art. It's that expansive thinking, and this is the same concept, is that you can dive a little deeper when your mind is a little bit more expansive, and that was what was happening for them. And and so you just have to be careful how much you drink, because it's still alcohol.
Yeah, right.
But you won't go crazy, and you won't have any hallucinations. No hallucinations. They have, and the talk wasn't real. Like, none of these people who drank it on a regular basis are having hallucinations. It just wasn't. The people who ended up in the asylums, who were crazy, they were having more than just hallucinations. They were very ill. And was it because they had become alcoholics because they drank too much of it? I guess we don't know. But here's keeping me out of the asylums.
Yes.
But it's very, very good. And I was hoping to just demystify that for you, and that now you know that you have another alcohol that you can add to your collection. I feel like it's a very fun summer drink. Like, it's very refreshing. Lots of ice in it, right? Watering it down. Even some lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Adding it to mixes like Tom Collins, different summer things. That they make mojitos with it. Again, you just have to only use a little bit. So one bottle will go a long way. Yeah.
Better.
I know, right?
At that cost, yeah.
Right.
What's that?
I said at that price, yeah.
I know,
Now, the
right?
first little sniff you gave us, to me, it tasted like anise biscotti.
Yes. That's the anise in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fennel. So the wormwood is the bitter. The wormwood is the green and the bitter. And the rest is lovely anise. And they use green anise. I don't know what the difference is. But, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So can you not put so much sugar in?
Yep.
Okay. So you can kind of play with that.
You want to play with it. What's your palate gonna tolerate? So on a bigger glass, so last night I made bigger glasses. This is really little. And I used 2 cubes in mine. I like my things really sweet. Jim didn't like it sweet, so he had less in his.
Okay.
But this was only 1 sugar cube, and it's really good. And this has no sugar added. This one.
Okay.
And that's what's in here. And yeah, when I tried to do it with this, is before I realized that this had the sugar in it, and then it was too sweet.
Does it tell you the sugar content on that?
You know, labels I find very difficult to read on alcohol because they don't.
Yeah. They.
Gotta watch your sugar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could find out online how much sugar this has.
Okay.
And if you get a brand that doesn't, like a higher grade brand, then you just play with it.
Yeah.
I chose for the Prosecco, a very sweet Prosecco. It might even be a Spumante. It was not even Prosecco, it might be Spumante, because I wanted it to be sweet to counteract the bitterness. But then you get a dry champagne or a dry addition, and that takes care of that too. It won't be as sweet.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah,
that
because
sugar.
to me this is very sweet because I'm not used to sugar. So yeah, that's why I asked, can you make it less?
And so I didn't add any sugar to that one. That's just this.
That's
content.
that. Yeah.
And the sweet Spumante.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I wish I could tell you what I was going to do next month.
Do you know, or?
No.
Oh.
No. We thought about it, and we talked about it, and I was like, yep, we carried on, and I didn't come up with an answer yet. So it is the week after Thanksgiving, and so I don't know. Is there anything that do you guys have anything specific you'd like me to talk about? Because I thought, what about gratitude? And then I was like, what did you come up with gratitude? And then I wanted to talk about container magic. And I was like, is that what I should talk about? I don't know. I know. Well, I'll think of something fabulous between now and then.
Of course you will.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to click off you guys. And thanks for joining in.